This week's Player of the Week goes to Ender Nukaya of the Avengers 6 and 7 division. Candace Stewart, his coach, says that Ender is a standout player on our team, known for his tenacity and positive attitude despite being one of the smallest players on the field. His resilience is evident as he often gets knocked down or run over during the games, yet he consistently maintains a smile and plays with enthusiasm. Ender's journey on the field exemplifies dedication, respect, and positivity. His ability to uplift others while excelling in his role makes him a valuable asset to the team. As he continues to develop his skills, we'll look forward to seeing how he grows both as a player and a leader. Ender, good job, man. Way to go. You are this week's Player of the Week, sponsored by the LC Sports and Recreation.
This week's Lasso Cedarworks Coach of the Week is Zach Trostel. Zach coaches 3 different teams in our league, and this week he had to deal with doubleheaders. All of his teams are really good. Watch Zach this week pull back when his teams were doing a little too good, and he just engages with his players and does a great job overall. Thank you, Zach. You are our Coach of the Week. Okay, thank you for showing up to episode 23, the Michael Jordan
MJ.
episode.
Guess what college MJ went to?
Pretty sure he went to Alabama.
Wrong.
No, we have a good show
The
today.
Tar Heels, actually. I had to answer that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, North Carolina. We're back on the couch today, which means the only guest that we have is the trophy. And why do we bring this up? Why do we bring the trophy in?
Yeah, we are in full prep for basketball league.
Yeah.
Our basketball league starts a whole month earlier this season. So if you've not signed up for basketball and you're in the Arlington or Fort Worth or Mansfield or Kennedale area, this is something that you're gonna want to get on quick and sign up, because we're filling up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
This is happening way sooner than it has ever happened before. So there's your plug for basketball.
Yeah, and I would point out that like basketball, I feel like is our bread and butter.
Yeah.
And we can have pickleball, we've got soccer, we've got camps and all that kind of stuff. But I think we both enjoy basketball
For sure.
most. It really affects a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a chance to really speak truth and light into kids, and so that So
And
we're
our
a little
coaches do a
partial.
good job too.
And the trophy, not bad, not bad. So this week we're gonna be talking about impact.
All right.
Right. We're smack dab in the middle of soccer season, closer to the end than we are the beginning, actually. And with that, we talk about a lot of different things, but this week we're going to be talking about impact and what that means. So what does impact mean to you when someone says the word impact? How do you define that?
How do you define it without using the word in the sentence?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
So I would define impact as somebody who has made a lasting impression on your life.
Yeah.
Someone who, when you think about the course of your life, you can point to a defining moment when someone or something that happened maybe has provided a way forward. Or, it could be something negative as well.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about impact today, I think, in a positive light.
Yeah, mostly in a positive light. And I want you to just kind of hold on to that thought of what impacts you, because we're going to play a little game today.
All right.
She has no idea.
Games.
Let me pull the curtain back a little bit, because most of the time on our podcasts, she and I will get together and talk about what we want to talk about for the show and kind of outline it right and how it's going to go. And I have some stuff in store that she has no idea about. So we're going to get to know Katrina.
I love a challenge
today. So before we do that,
get to know.
So I have some quotes.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out a quote, and then I'm going to let you kind of tell me your thoughts on the quote. Because, like you said, it's hard to define impact. I had to go and, I know what impact is. I know what it means to me, but I wanted to go look at some different quotes about what impact means to other people, just to see how other people think of it. So the first quote that I have is one by Franklin D. Roosevelt, and it says, "Physical strength can never permanently withstand the impact of spiritual force.
Mm.
I know that's a deep quote.
Yeah.
But what do you get out of that?
Roosevelt was the president that was in the wheelchair. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
World War II.
Mm-hmm. I was there. Remember speaking to Mr. Roosevelt? Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't care how strong you are. Like the impact that spirituality has in our life, it can either thrust us into a more trusting and positive state, or if we don't have a spiritual impact, like if we don't have a connection with God and we're just trying to get through life on our own strength, at some point that runs out. Yeah. Like at some point that's going to stop, or your strength is going to fail you. Like for him, maybe he was, I know that I talked to him, but I don't remember exactly what he said when he talked about, obviously he was in a wheelchair. And so there were some limitations there, right? But again, I mean, whether you're in a wheelchair or not, there's always physical limitations that our body has. Why? Because, I mean, God made us with limitations. Like God is the only one without limits, if you will, that we talked about back in our podcast of Does God Care Who Wins, right? And so I think that's spot on. Like, there is an eternal God that knows it all and is over all and is in control of all. And he can choose when he wants to, speak into something dramatically, i.e. a person's life. Right. Or if he wants to draw, small hints.
I don't read this face as shocked, but I'm blown away by your answer. Like I have all the confidence in the world that you can take a Roosevelt quote and turn it into something great. But like, that was really good.
Well, I talked to him.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, you set the bar high. So I'll bring it back down a little bit on this one. So this is a quote from Bill Gates about impact. And it says, considering their impact, you might expect mosquitoes to get more attention than they do. Sharks kill fewer than a dozen people every year. And in the U.S., they get a week dedicated to them on TV. Right?
I hate mosquitoes. I cannot stand them. So Dean has built this beautiful, backyard area for us. And we made the mistake of not laying the foundation in concrete. We just did it with plywood. Right. And that decision has eaten our lunch because, when the sprinklers come on or, when our roof leaks because there's hail damage, the water comes in. And when the water comes in, the mosquitoes come out. Right. And they're just, man, they're so pesky and they drain the life out of you. Yep. Yep. Whereas a shark, I mean, if you engage with a shark, like it's over, like just boom, you're done.
Yeah. I like this quote because when dealing with impact, we often see the big bad shark and we think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I mean, and it represents something in our lives, right? Like this huge issue or this huge problem. But yet we worry and we suffer fear and all this kind of stuff. And like it says, fewer than a dozen a year, people actually die from shark attacks. Meanwhile, mosquitoes affect all of us every single day. I can't sit in my backyard with the dogs because of mosquitoes.
They sap the joy out of you.
Yeah. But yet, what are people most afraid of? What makes the bigger impact? It's the sharks with their huge teeth and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So
true.
I thought that was a pretty good one. Okay, next one. This is one of my favorites. And I don't quote Scarlett Johansson a lot, believe it or not, but I'm going to quote her here. It says, she said, I think most of the impact I have over time, most people will not actually know about. And so this is why I love this quote, is because all the time I think about, who am I impacting on a daily basis? I'm not on TV. I don't, even though we're on a podcast, but right. I typically, I'm not out there in the middle of everybody influencing people. I kind of have my own little life and I go about my business, but I tell my kids all the time or players, you never know who's watching. And so most of your impact that you have over time is going to be on people that no one will ever know about. And that could be positive or negative. Yeah. Right. So I have to have a positive impact.
Yep. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next quote. And I said I didn't quote Scarlett Johansson a lot. Even less do I quote Boy George.
Okay, I don't know who Boy George is.
Oh my gosh.
Is he in a rock band? A rock and roll band?
He was maybe still is. I don't know. He was popular in the 80s.
Did he have long hair?
Mm-hmm.
And wear a hat sometimes?
I think so.
Okay. What? Okay. Name me a song. Name me a song.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't. We're really dating ourselves.
Boy George.
Okay, so Boy George said, lots of headless chickens running around, artists with 14 million followers on Twitter, some making millions, none making cultural impact.
Okay, I would like to disagree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's take T Swift for a second.
Who's T Swift? Oh, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, like Taylor Swift. I mean, she has impacted the culture dramatically, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Boy George at the time, though I don't know who he is, I mean, he affected culture in some sense.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you think of this quote, like, none will make cultural impact? Is that positive cultural impact?
I think it's either, but I think where he's going with that is people aren't really cognizant of what they can actually do, right? So let's take who's somebody that we've talked about. I mean, you can take any athlete really, and you can say, hey, you know what? Just shut up and dribble, right? LeBron James, we don't need to hear about your political statements or whatever. And I think what Boy George is advocating, and again, this is my personal interpretation of it, is no, you have the mouthpiece. You have the ability to, affect culture.
Right.
But you've got all these people that are on Twitter that they have no concept of what's going on around them.
So the key here is Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. And then the headless chickens.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Got it. I gotcha.
So
I'm following.
I think to me, what this quote speaks of is that, you have the ability to make an impact on pretty much anybody, especially when you're given the stage, like these entertainers or these singers. But what kind of an impact are you going to make? Are you just doing it because it's fun and you don't care? And, you have these athletes that say, I'm not a role model. Don't look at me. Well, yeah, you kind of are, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah.
You're either good or bad. Right. So you're going to have an impact on young children.
Right.
And they're going to watch your games and they're going to watch your concerts and go to your concerts. And so,
that's true.
You're going to have that impact. Okay. I like this one too as a parent. This is Tony Dungy. I admire Tony Dungy quite a bit. He, former coach, he coached for the Colts when Peyton Manning was there. He said, but I know I have a son who doesn't listen to anything I say. And if he hears the same thing from someone else, sometimes it has a little more impact. How do you feel about that one?
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that over and over in youth sports. You could have a dad who is a tremendous coach, both from the standpoint of he has the experience, he's great with kids, he knows what he's talking about, but yet it's so hard for his son or his daughter to actually listen to him.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the number of conversations, when I go and ask a dad, hey, because I know he's good at basketball and he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, like, are you gonna coach this year? And I can't tell you how many times they've come back and their response has been, yeah, I really want to, but I really think that little Johnny just needs to hear from someone else other than me.
Yeah.
That's so common.
Yeah, it is.
And it's so true. Like,
it is.
Yeah.
And I have to, the way that I take this is sometimes I have to swallow my pride and my ego too, because I want to have an impact on somebody. And I'll give you an example. Like, I can remember as a detective, once I got to where I had been doing it for several years and I knew what I was doing, and I would go talk to a victim, and I would take maybe a younger officer or a younger detective with me, and we'd go talk to this victim, and the victim would say, well, I'd like to talk to this detective, not me, but the other one.
The younger one?
The younger one.
Okay.
Because they would develop a rapport with that victim. And in my mind, I'm thinking, hang on, I know way more than this guy does. Like, I can make a much deeper impact. But the truth of the matter is, it's not up to me.
Yeah.
You know, the victim wanted to talk to this detective.
Right.
Because there was some kind of rapport there. And so sometimes when we're making impacts in people's lives, we have to go, you know what? Maybe somebody can make a bigger or better impact than I can.
Yeah.
It's not always about what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, if there is a way to kind of fade into the background because it's best for that person and they get a greater impact out of it, it shouldn't be about our own ego.
Yeah. And so you have these two opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will, like Tony Dungy, you know, acknowledging that sometimes his kids pay more attention to someone else than to him, right?
Yeah.
And then you have, I think it was the Scarlett Johansson quote that says, most of the time, you know, the impact that I have over time, most people will not actually know about.
Yeah.
So it's like the impact that you know that's like hands-on, that you can see, and then the impact that you can't see. But both of those are examples of impact in a positive or a negative way.
Yeah.
So I think it's just unique when we talk about impact. I think I've said that like 20 times now. You know,
there's the theme.
There's things that just come to your mind, like these are the things that I can offer, period. Here they are.
Right.
And then there's things that we are offering and we don't even know we're offering it.
So that brings me to my final two quotes, which we'll kind of put together. But I think it's disingenuous for us to believe that we're not having an impact on someone's life one way or the other.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I come into work and I'm in a bad mood, I'm impacting someone.
Sure, 100%.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm impacting you and vice versa, right? And so anybody that I deal with at work, I'm impacting one way or the other. So we have to be cognizant of that and not just pretend like, well, I'm just going to go live my life and I don't care what people think. You know, well, you're influencing other people's lives, which is a good segue into these quotes. So the last two quotes. One is from Hugh Hefner.
Yikes.
Okay. Hugh Hefner. He said, the people who had the most impact on me when I was young were Freud and Darwin. But growing up, I also had my film idols. Okay. So let's break that one down just a little bit because he says that Freud, you know, the psychology, the secular psychology and all that kind of stuff that goes with Freud, and Darwin, which we associate with evolution.
Yeah.
And then he literally says, my film idols, right? So those are the people that influenced Hugh Hefner growing up. The second quote is by John Piper, theologian, right? And he says, God is infinitely valuable. I can't think of anything that would have a greater impact on your life than for you to believe that. Okay. So you take and contrast both of those quotes. You see that Hugh Hefner was influenced in one way and John Piper is influenced a completely opposite way. And John Piper is offering hope to people, right? God is infinitely valuable. This is what can be provided to you, right? Whereas Hugh Hefner is saying, no, I was influenced by these people. And what does Hugh Hefner end up doing with his life? You know, he runs Playboy.
Right.
He's responsible for, you know, just, well, we all know what Hugh Hefner is responsible for, right?
Yeah.
So I think it just goes to show you when they both use the word impact in their quotes, you are impacting someone with what you're doing. In fact, when you're watching television or, you know, you gain friends, whatever it is, whatever you're subjecting yourself to is going to impact you in the future, right? Like that is going to play a role in which way your life goes, does it not?
It does. And, you know, let's talk about music for a second. I know that you have some other questions as well. But like I don't like the impact that music has over my life. I'm a big, not many people, I think you know this about me, but that's probably the extent. I'm a big country music fan. Love country music.
Yeah.
But I've found that at moments and times when I'm listening to country music, there's thoughts that I shouldn't be having that come up. And I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. Whereas, you know, if I'm listening to the Forrest Frank album or, you know, some praise and worship music, my mind is in a completely different place.
Yes.
And I hate that that's the fact, but it just goes back to your point that to think that all the things that occupy our minds and our times,
right,
they have a dramatic impact.
Yeah.
on how we live and move and breathe.
Yeah. You're 100% right, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying.
With country music or
yes.
just
No, it was specific to that.
Yeah.
Like, I love country music.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm like, yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
I got to turn this.
Yeah.
You know? But I'll go even further. Watching Alabama play football.
Uh-huh.
And going back a couple weeks when Alabama plays Georgia, and it goes down to, Alabama's up big, and then it goes to, Georgia comes back and it's really close. And I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat and I'm nervous and I have all this anxiousness. And then finally Alabama makes an interception, at the end of the game to seal the win. And I'm like, man, that was close. I just spent probably an hour and a half in these anxious, tense moments that I didn't have, like, because of a 17-year-old kid catching a pass and running down the sidelines for a touchdown. Like, wow, And so as much as I love football, as much as I enjoy college football, there are times when I just have to turn it off and walk away now.
Did you turn off the Alabama-Georgia game?
I did not.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I didn't do. I didn't watch another game on Sunday.
Because the Cowboys weren't playing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even then, like, I have found in as I get older, I almost said in my old age, but as I get older, I have found that more and more, as much as I love sports, I am recognizing the kind of impact it can have on my life when it comes to just the tension in my life and what it causes. And so, no, I can't, I'll listen to guys talk about, I'll watch football Thursday night and then high school on Friday, college on Saturday, NFL on Sunday. Then you got a Monday night game. Like, I can't watch that much football. I can't even watch close to that much football.
Can't either. Yeah.
But it can have a huge impact on you if you allow those tensions to get in, whether it's songs or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay. Fun game.
All right, here we go.
Get to know Katrina.
Uh-oh.
So, what I want to know, I have 10 things here.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you, and I'm doing this on the podcast so you can't say, I don't know. You have to answer.
Okay. All right.
This is what had the biggest impact on you. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is name the friend that had the biggest impact on your life.
Name the friend that had the biggest impact in my life.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm repeating these questions is
to buy time.
Because I'm buying time and thinking about the friend that made the biggest impact in my life.
And I will give you time because I'm going to say that the reason why I'm asking you these things is so the audience can get to know you better, but also because I'm curious what the first thing is that comes to your head.
Okay, I have an answer.
Okay.
I could go with a lot of people.
Okay.
But the one that I think made the biggest impact in my life, her name is Nicole Combs. She graduated high school with me, played softball with me. We both went to East Carolina University. Nicole, I think I invited Nicole to church when I was a high schooler. And so she went to our church. And we went to college together, and my life went a completely different way. I got further and further away from my faith and from God, and Nicole got deeper and deeper into her faith. And so the reason why she made the biggest impact in my life is because I know for a fact that for 2 years, Nicole Combs prayed for me that I would come back to faith, freshman and sophomore year in college. And when I finally did, and in those 2 years, I mean, she saw the life that I was living. She lived on the 7th floor of, I think it was Clements Hall. I haven't said that in like 20 years. And I lived on the penthouse of the dormitory, Clement Hall. And so she saw all of my mess. But yet she still prayed, and God heard her prayers. She was the one that prayed for me. And she was a resource when I finally, when God finally worked in my life to where I could not make another decision. She helped in getting me involved in a campus ministry. And that changed the course.
That's a fantastic answer, by the way. See, it's like it writes itself. Um, do you still have contact with her?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we text messaged back and forth. Her mom's going through some things right now, and so yeah, we do.
That's a fantastic answer. Okay, I'll give that a pass.
What do you mean a pass?
No,
What
like
do you mean a pass?
like you didn't
Oh,
fail
okay,
that one.
okay,
Like
okay,
you
okay,
passed.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, so that might answer the second one, but we're obviously big into sports and we
Yeah.
have our own sports leagues here. The teammate that made the biggest impact on you in sports.
The teammate.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because you always talk about how you
okay.
were Jordan.
Listen,
so-
no, it's the Dean Parlin.
Okay.
And let me tell you this story.
Okay.
So I was still on the fence about the Dean Parlin.
Uh-huh.
He took me to Houston to visit his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sports related, okay?
Yeah.
And so in his mind, if things didn't go well with his twin sister and her family, it was done. Because I wasn't there yet. And he was, so he needed to either continue this chapter or close the book.
Yeah.
And so the very last day I was in Houston, we played a pickup game against his sister and her husband.
Okay.
And the reason why he is the most teammate, said teammate?
Yeah.
Was that he found out quickly that if he came and screened for me, I could dribble one time, pop up, shoot, and drain it. He figured that out. And so that's how I fell in love with Dean Parlin.
When someone completely submitted to what you wanted to do.
No,
I know.
For me.
Yeah. I got you.
And it worked.
That's a good answer too. Good answer.
And
okay.
That was the defining moment where I said, okay, this is going to work.
Really?
100%.
That's fascinating.
On the way home from Houston, it was Black Friday. So it was Friday after Thanksgiving. I repeated back to him what he had already told me. And those were those 3 words.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay. All right. So this one won't be this might be harder, but not as deep. Okay. The food that has made the biggest impact on you.
Yeah, I'm going to say, it's probably, dairy and gluten.
Mm-hmm.
I've been away from dairy and gluten for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
And have, because I've been away from dairy, I've not had an antibiotic in 7 years. Because with dairy, that was related to sinus infections.
Yeah.
So that's pretty huge for me.
Huge, yeah.
And then like with the gluten, it's just help with some digestive things.
Right.
So I would say dairy and gluten.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Lack of.
I'm going through, by the way, as you're answering, I'm taking off in my head what I think you'll say. I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, you are really?
I wouldn't have guessed the Dean Parlin.
Okay.
But the other ones, yeah. Well, anyway, I figured a friend would be a North Carolina person. Okay. So how about what trip or vacation impacted you the most? You've done some mission work too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it's a sabbatical that I took, I guess 2 years ago now. I think it was after I had been here for 15 years, took a month off, went to Arkansas, and just got a lot of freedom for just some things that just would just continue to eat at me. So I would say the time spent in Northwest Arkansas, who would have thought?
Who would have thought a North Carolina girl would go to Northwest Arkansas?
That's exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, that had a dramatic impact on how I see life and how I'm able to love myself and love other people accordingly.
You're killing it. You're killing it, kiddo.
Kiddo.
Yeah. Nice. Although you're 40 now, so okay, this is a big one.
All right.
The sports moment that had the biggest impact on your life.
Oh gosh, I think it was like
sports moment.
Oh, it was 2017.
17, really?
2017, I think so. Yeah, it was before Taya. Yeah, it was in Houston, North Carolina. Was in the national championship.
That's right.
Dean and I went, and they got beat on a last-second shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced heartache like that.
Didn't you tell me that like there was no word spoken between Houston and home?
No, we got up out of our seats and we walked to the truck, and neither of us said anything to each other until we got home. Like not a single word for 4.5 hours.
Right.
We were just both stunned.
Yeah. All right.
So that's a negative impact.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. That's good. Okay. The movie that had the biggest impact on you.
I'm not a big movie person.
No.
Um,
TV, movie.
I mean, let's go with Hamilton because I
Really?
think that's the first musical I've ever liked in my entire life. And I chose to continue to watch it because Taya liked the beat.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay, time out. How many musicals have you watched?
I mean, not many. Like, if you ask Hannah Morris,
No, Hannah Morris is a different animal. She watches everyone.
Yeah. So there's Hamilton.
Uh-huh.
I guess Encanto is a musical.
Sure.
She tells me that all Disney movies are musicals. Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't. I'm not a musical.
So since Taya, I guess I've watched a lot of musicals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Hamilton.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
I don't know,
good.
like what movie? Like, I don't. I guess my favorite one is Sweet Home Alabama, but
Yeah.
I don't know that that's impacted me.
Yeah, not in the traditional sense. Like it didn't change your
really.
life, but
I don't think a movie has changed my life.
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
I don't really put any
You
stock
didn't watch
in movies.
Hoosiers and think, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
I mean, Dean made me watch it, and he thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. Well, then how about song? You're more of a music person.
What song? I think that like ebbs and flows, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is there a hymn or a gospel song that grabs you?
On my playlist right now, it's an old Aretha Franklin that's been redone of What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I like that one a lot.
That's a good one.
I love Tasha Cobb's He Knows My Name. Taya likes that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to stay up on all the songs. Like right now, the Forrest Frank album, really enjoy that one.
Yeah.
The song Up, that's what Taya and I listen to every single morning going to school.
Yeah.
Last year, I think it was like Good Day was the title of it. So yeah, I think it ebbs and flows.
So can I point out here that this kind of underscores what we were talking about earlier, where a lot of your answers are Taya and I, but you're creating not only memories but lasting, impactful moments.
I hope so.
Where like you said, I could listen to country music all the time, but what about those times where you're listening to some of this stuff and there's meaning and substance behind it, and Taya gets to be the recipient of that. So
the Lord has really tapped me on the shoulder with that, because I've chosen not to listen anymore to country music with Taya in the truck. But then the Lord was like, well, if you don't want her to listen to country music, then maybe you should evaluate yourself.
Yes, exactly.
I hated that. But
I hate that feeling too, but I think they call that conviction.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Lord.
just a couple more. Okay. So, coach. Has there a coach?
Yeah. Lester Wilder grew up in a small town, so he essentially coached. I had him coach all three sports: volleyball, basketball, softball. He was a staple in our community. He was a hard coach. Like I remember him calling a timeout just to cuss me out. That was the sole purpose of the timeout.
Really?
And he called me left Hannah, which he meant left-hander, but he shorted that as left Hannah. But he would always pull me aside, and just talk about life. So he was very impactful in our community.
That's funny that you talk about the coach in that way, because the one that impacted me the most was a coach in high school who absolutely told me, "You'll never start. You'll never start." And yet that impacted me. You would think in a negative way.
Yeah.
But it made me go, "Oh yeah, watch this."
Yeah.
And it made me work 10 times harder.
That's awesome.
To get where I wanted to be. And we ended up being actually pretty good friends afterwards.
That's good.
But yeah, it's you had to like listen to what he said, kind of like what you're saying, that he cussed you out, called a timeout just to cuss you out. Like sometimes the impact happens inside.
Yeah.
Inside yourself.
Yep.
Okay, two more. Team. Is there a team, either your team or a specific team, that has impacted you, where you looked at and said, "Man, that was impactful"?
A team that has impacted me. A team that has impacted me. You go first while I think. A team that has impact. As you're putting these questions together, did something speak to you?
Yeah, I'm answering them for myself. I think for me, uh, not necessarily personally, but when the Cowboys won the Super Bowl in 1993, like they hadn't been to a Super Bowl since the 70s, right? And they come back, and I remember the impact that it had on the community because I can remember that the city of Dallas, well, the area, DFW area, was just going nuts over the Cowboys because, like, they're back and they're going to Super Bowls. And I just think you had Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and, all of these players that were very recognizable. Jerry Jones had taken over. You have Jimmy Johnson's coaching and all that, and it was just huge for the community. And so I think, not for me personally, although I am a Cowboys fan, but for the community, it was just very, very impactful.
Yeah. Okay, I have one, but it's not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
So now that Roy Williams is not coaching anymore for the Tar Heels, and also now that Mike Krzyzewski has retired, I think he was on ESPN or some kind of network TV, did an interview with them together. And I really enjoyed listening to them talk about the struggles and the highs and the lows of coaching all of those years against each other, and their banter back and forth, but it was a banter with friends, like among friends, and man, I could watch that episode like every day for the rest of my life and just find this warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart. And if you would have asked me how I felt about Mike Krzyzewski before that interview, I probably would not have said nice things. But like, since he's retired, like, I feel like I can enjoy him a little bit more,
Yeah, he's not the competition anymore.
Yes, and that interview with him, with Roy, really just brought out, how okay of a man he is.
Right.
Or maybe he's pleasant. So
we just don't want to admit it.
Yeah. So the team, I guess I would say, just, I love to watch coaches and how they interact, both with their players, with the assistant coaches, how they interact on the sidelines. If you're a lady coach, then I love watching, your outfit that you put together and how you're able to walk up and down the floor with heels.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have a team, but as far as sports and like, I guess the impact, I love to watch how coaches impact the atmosphere.
That's great. I will tell you, I have one left, and before I give it to you, first of all, you've done very well.
Thanks.
This. You are someone who, for our audience's sake, you take a lot of time. One of the things I love about you take a lot of time to make decisions. You really want to weigh things out. You're very, aware that what you say needs to be representative of you and what you want. And so I thought, when I'm doing this, there's no way she's going to be able to come up with stuff on the spot like this because she wants to think about it and process it. But man, like I'm impressed. Okay, last one. What Bible story has impacted you the most?
Oh yeah, it's the one that I have right here on my arm. It comes out of Luke 7. This is the story where this sinful woman goes and Jesus is reclining with Pharisees at the dinner table. And this sinful woman, comes up to him and she just starts crying at his feet. And so much so that she, the Bible says that she uses her tears, to wash his feet and her hair as well. And all the while, a conversation that the Pharisees are having in their heads are, if Jesus only knew who this woman was and what she's done, to be sure, so really questioning Jesus's authority and who he is, right? And then Jesus responds to their thoughts in the form of a story. But at the very end of it, this is kind of my life verse. Luke 7:37, Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many," I'm pointing to myself right now, "have been forgiven, for she's loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little." And to me, that just speaks of Jesus's love for all of mankind. No matter what you've done, no matter how heinous you think that your sin is, or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Jesus's love trumps the worst of the worst. And it's our decision to make that love transformative in our own lives, or just to continue to sit in shame and guilt, and our own funk, and stay in that. And that woman in that Bible verse, like, she was coming to him in all sincerity and all humility, and Jesus knew that. And Psalm 51, it just talks about a contrite heart, coming to Jesus with a contrite heart. And for me, I would say, yeah, like, I've done some pretty awful stuff. But I will stand on the fact that what Jesus did on the cross and his love has brought redemption, not only for the world, but for me specifically. And because of that, it's my job to offer that same love to those who are impacted, whether that be in our basketball league or our soccer league, or at Martin High School, or whomever is listening to this.
Yeah. I saved that one for last because I knew that would be your sweet spot. And I knew that you would, knock that one out of the park. And you did. I think it's interesting because you talk about the redemptive aspect of that story. And while it's not my same story, because mine is David, it's very much the same thing. I think that's why we do what we do with these kids and these coaches and everybody that comes into the LC, is because we have screwed up so much that we realize the grace that it takes, and the many blessings that we've been given, second chances, third chances, and on and on. And when I read, that's why, like, I could spend the rest of my life in the Psalms and read, just because I think about David pouring his heart out to God and what that means from where he came from to where he ended up. And I just truly think that if people could get to know us the way that we've gotten to know you a little bit today, on this podcast, they would see that our heart is for God. It is when we say we want these kids to see that in our league, we want families and parents to come in and see our heart, for God to be given to these children and these families, that it's sincere when we say that. And I think so. Thank you for answering the way that you did. And let me point out the impact on all of there were 10. Okay, maybe not food, but even food. It's huge. Like, it changes the course of your life, right? Like, even the food, like, you eat completely differently, and because, of your reasons, and it changes the course of your life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially the people. So, we're constantly being impacted by what's in our life and what we invite in. So, I think it's a pretty good job that we've done today of encapsulating what impact is.
Yep, you did a good job.
So, stay with us for the next episode, because we're going forward from impact to, what is it?
Toughness. Yeah.
Toughness.
Yep.
Right. So in that episode, I'm going to ask Katrina to demonstrate how tough she is. No, I'm just kidding. But no, thanks for being with us in this episode, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you. Thanks for watching.